So today's topic is use cases and architecture for streaming analytics. So I will be presenting you 4 use cases, and they are real world use cases currently implemented in different companies across different verticals. And so the use cases will be from healthcare, from manufacturing, from government, and also from um, telecom. So let's begin. What do we understand by data analytics? And here is this circle of 3 pillars that says data deployment and discovery. So when we have the data, first we need to analyze what is the business requirement. And based on that, we try to acquire the data and understand what we need, what type of different data is provided by the business for this business use case, and what we can do out of that. So in this phase, we first need to analyze that we need to prepare this data, because sometimes the data can be noisy, it can be structured or unstructured, and it can have some missing fields as well, or corrupted fields as well. So we need to prepare the data and before we move into the next step. And in the next step, we are exploring and analyzing what we have collected and trying to derive some valuable insights out of it. And for that, we use the data modeling. We see how we can analyze all the data that we have gathered. And this could be data at rest and also data that is streaming and it's real time. So, and then after that, once we know that this is what we are analyzing and how the model would work, so we go through the cycle of training and scoring there and using different algorithms from machine learning and artificial intelligence. And once we know that, we need to understand that how we are seeing it and how we communicate this data so that it's easier for the business users to understand what is the result and what is the outcome and what is the insight that they have derived from this data that was shared and that is being generated. And at the same time, we also need to understand how we are deploying this and how we are maintaining all these different models, because in any use case, you will never have one single model. There will be multiple models, and you will always have to select the right models out of those. And also at the same time, you will have multiple models that would be running at the same time. So it's important to understand how they're deployed, managed, and maintained. And also the update cycle is extremely important, because over time we will have modifications and updates in the model, so they need to be updated as the changes happen. So we are talking so much about data, and in today's world we are seeing that the maximum amount of data that we are getting is coming from IoT. So data is bringing the innovation, and the IoT is the first source of that is producing so much of data that we are working on these days. So what we mean by IoT, so it is the interconnection of different devices, and which could be different sensors or different equipments and different smart devices that are installed in different places, or some cameras. And all these devices, they are capable of communicating with each other or with us, and we can collect all the information that these devices are generating over a secure network. And what we are seeing is that the amount of data that we have today was never ever before like that. Today we are having so much, and we cannot also keep everything at one place, like, or on one single server. We need to have a scalable infrastructure which can have all this data and keep it at one place, or like in a distributed way, so it can be accessible not just for one person, but like across your team, across the globe, at any time you need. And that's where the cloud platforms are helping us to understand and keep this data at their infrastructure. They're providing the right infrastructure to store this large scale big data that we are having. And it is not generated like from one industry, but like all the industries that we have so far that we know about. So for example, if you take the hospital today, and with the COVID situation, we are having, again, a lot of data that is being generated, how the people are communicating, how much, how close they are, what's the proximity with other persons. So we are having this contact information these days. And it is also with every person moving around, we are collecting every single minute of their move. And also, like, it is important to understand where are the different assets in the hospital. So in hospitals, most of the assets, they are underutilized, and most of the time we don't know where they are. So it is important to understand where these assets are, and so when the time comes, they can be accessed quickly and easily, and without, in real time, we will know what's their location. So, but then we need to understand, how do we harness this value, or how do we derive the values out of this data that we are keeping? So what we see is that we have understood, we have collected this data, this high volume and high velocity of data, which is very complex. It could be easy as well, but we have seen that the complexity is high and it's a large amount of data. Next is, we need to understand what it is saying to us. And the most important is to act. Once we understand what it is telling us, and we have the reports, we have the analysis, we need to act. That's the main step. If that is not done, it's no point collecting so much of data. So we have this feedback loop that tells where we can either store what the action is, we can store the insight so that it can be used later, or it can be directly streamed so that we take the right actions at the right time. And we are seeing that how we are getting the value out of it. So we are having, the businesses are running more efficiently and in an optimized way, and the customers are getting better experiences, and we are creating new models, business models that are generating more revenues, and the way we have been doing business has also changed, and the way we understand the data has also changed, and the way we are now using this data is also bringing a lot of benefits to the industries and also to the humankind. And we are seeing that the economic impact is like $11 trillion, and it is increasing many folds every year. So what we see as a traditional analytical life cycle is that we keep the data, we store the data, then on that top of the data, we train it, we score it, and we create the models, and based on what we have learned, what we are scoring, we create the alerts and reports, and also visualize what's happening, and provide also the predictive analysis, what's happening. So this is a traditional way to keep everything stored in the databases or in some storages, and then work on that. Because of this, we are having a latency in action, and delayed action is like having no action. So it's important that we perform the action real time, and we analyze these streaming data rather than storing it and then working on them. We need to analyze this data as soon as it is generating. So that's bring us to the next level, where we call IoT analytics. So here the streaming data, it is not like directly being stored, but it is being streamed to the streaming model execution engines, where we are running our stream processing engines that are working continuously on this streaming data. And they see that how we can, also here we can train, supervise, and score the models. And once we have the model, we develop the model based on what we are getting. We are creating these models based on the historic data as well to train the models, and then that can be deployed either directly to the data storage, or it can be deployed into the streaming models. So that's what we see, and this is what is bringing the value here, because we are now able to analyze the data directly. We are able to process the data directly, and we can do online scoring as well. There are many models which do not need training beforehand or with the historic data, and then they just need the scoring. So it can also be directly worked upon. And again, everything goes back to the dashboards, where we have the alerts and the other reports and summaries. So this is the streaming analytical model. So here on the right side, you see that we have the cloud platform, and on the left side, you have the edge side. So on the cloud platform side, we see that how we are creating the advanced analytical models and using the AI machine learning, and then we are creating these packages that can be deployed and using different solutions with which we can create different models and for exploration, for understanding, for data preparation, for visualization. Once we have these models can be directly be running either in the server that's there on the cloud, or they can send streamed directly to the edge computing that is on the edge itself. So here it is important to note that it's not necessary that what we are having, what model we are running at the edge will be the same model that we will be running in the cloud. So it will be different, and it could be same as well though. So what happens is that in some cases, we would like to, for example, we are monitoring the temperature and the sensors are sending the data. So we don't really need to know every single second or every single microsecond what was the temperature. So what we need to know is where the deviation happened, and also what is the at what point in the whole like last 10 minutes there was a deviation. This is what is more interesting. So with edge computing, it also helps us to get rid of or like filter the information that is not really making sense, and it is just keeping constant temperature for a while. So this is not an information that we would be like to understand or analyze, but what we are interested in when the deviation happened, when it fell down or it rose, that is more important. And at the same time, whenever there is a model updates and we want to change or upload new models, so we have this device management that can be directly be interacting with the edge, and where we can deploy these new updated models with the versioning control there. And at the same time, whatever data we are having, we can always store it in persistent storages at any point, and either all the data that is we are collecting from the edge or the data that is being streamed to the cloud. Everything can be stored for future analysis. So this is the streaming analytics core platform. So here we have what we interested in model development. That is like how we are going to work on the data, the structured, unstructured data using different machine learning algorithms or artificial intelligence, data mining, deep learning. And also there are sometimes we are using the third-party solutions, and because there is no one solution that can do everything, so we always work with different open sources and different third-party solutions. We combine them together to solve our business problems. And then we need to also manage those models. We have created so many of these models, we need to manage them. And also on top of that, we need to have the right decisions and business rules that will be applied on that. And then it is important that how we are publishing these models and monitoring these models. So it can be done in the cloud or in the edge based on what type of model it is and what its function and what is actually analyzing. This is the event stream processing architecture. It's a very high level architecture where you see that we have the streaming engine that is running at the edge. That is where we are collecting all the data that's coming from the sensors. And then we have the streaming analytics engine running in the cloud. We have the design and testing environment, which is ESP Studio, where you can create these streaming analytics model. And then for operationalization, Event Stream Manager, it is managing the deployment and also the versioning and how much resources for each server you would like to provide, what is their resource consumption you would like to provide. All the decisions are made here. And also, when the events are flowing in the process and you would like to know what's happening at different stages. For example, if you have a, if you are collecting, verifying some pattern which is followed by some filtering, then you can visualize what is flowing from my pattern to my filtering and what's going out of the filtering. And also you can see how, what data is coming to my model and what is my final output, what is going out of my models. This is the architecture where we have the servers running in the Kubernetes cluster. And this is a deployment that can happen on the cloud or on premises. And the ESP servers, they are capable of communicating directly with the streaming ingestions, different ways you would be collecting it. Either you will be streaming the data to a Kafka, to a database, or to some cloud provided message buses like Event Hub from Azure. So it could be that you are storing, it could be for this training purpose, we are storing the historic data and we want to train the model based on that. So it could be any type of ingestion that we want to have, and the ESP servers, they would be fetching this data, and we're creating the trainings or the processing of those data that is there. And at the same time, if during the processing there is something that needs to be stored and needs to have a faster access, then it can also interact, communicate with the in-memory stores. And this is for faster access rather than using the other databases or other services that could slow down, because here the latency is very important. We want to have everything almost real time, like nearly real time. So we want to minimize the latency. That's why in-memory stores makes a lot of sense. Why? Because everything is in the memory and the fetching is faster. Also, it's once we have the results, so either they can be directly sent for the dashboarding. So Grafana and Prometheus are very good tools for monitoring and logging purpose to understand what's happening in the cluster, if the servers are running or not, if they are failing, what's going on, and also what's the logs being generated here. So it is these are tools that are very good, and also how to visualize the data. So for visualization as well, to understand for the business users, there are different dashboards that can be created using different applications that's available. So where are the benefits? So we see that by moving to cloud platforms, data science can leverage a lot of its features. The first one is that the capabilities that it provides. It provides, like, anytime you want to have more resources, you can always scale up. It will scale up automatically as the demand, as the workload would increase. So sometimes during the day we have seen in e-commerce mostly that at some point we have more demand of some products and we see a higher use of the e-commerce website. So during these times we need to have a scalable solution that can absorb all this increase in the connections, increase in the requests that's being provided by the coming from the different users. And it also provides you the flexibility on what type of resources you want, like how much CPU you want, how much memory you want, what is your storage size, and everything is scalable. And at the same time, they are also taking care that nothing fails, and if it fails, how it resumes back, and nothing is lost. And also, it is optimizing the resource utilization in a way so that it becomes cost effective, cost efficient for you, and it is also accessible from anywhere. So this is a very good feature that cloud platform provide when we want to have all these models in our setup, in our environment. So whenever the model there, we will see a fluctuation, it will automatically scale up. Next is data sciences, as we all know, is a team effort. not like cannot be done by just one person. We all do it together, and we are working on the shared data. We are trained using this data. Updated information is required here to make the right training, to rightly train the model and to make the right decisions. And at this time, it is important that we have the latest data, and not like a small portion of it, but a big amount of data. So if it is done on like single laptop on a single server, it becomes difficult to access all the different data sources and work on that. So when we are in the cloud platform, it adds value there, because by moving to the cloud, you can always have the access to all the different data sources, and you have a big amount of data that you would be working on. So basically, you have access to large-scale data, and data of any type: structured, unstructured, semi-structured, and what we see in our world, data science world, more the better. Also, it removes the focus on the infrastructure. It removes the focus on what different services we want to use, what different softwares we want to use, how we are going to manage these softwares. If my software goes down, how can I revive it? All these complications are handled by the platform. So it takes away the infrastructure management overhead, and it offers like several managed services that helps the scientists, the data scientists, and anybody who is in the data science an ease for deployment, and also to update if there is an update in any of these services. And it is maintaining the logistics, and also the security and privacy is taken care of. It makes sure that this data, so you do not have to download the data on your computer. You can directly work on the data that is already there. With this, you can have quick time to value. So that means most of the time we are working in the test environment, and then we deploy everything in the production environment. So it also allows you to do this faster. So rather than taking everything from your machine to the production environment, once you are already there in the cloud platform where you're doing the development, everything is right there. It is easier to make the updates. It is easier to make the deployments. It is easier to make the changes on the fly. So let's move to the use cases and see how all this streaming analytics is being used in different use cases, like in different industries. So the first is with government. So what we have seen is that there are lots of disasters that have happened, the natural disaster that happens. So, for example, the rainfall, the floods that happen, the tremors, earthquake, and what are the different damages they cause. So what we can do and how we can help the government to prevent such things, or even we cannot prevent, like for deforestation, we can prevent it for some forest fires, which are not natural but unnatural, created by humans, that can be prevented. So these are some use cases that where we can help the government to identify what action should be taken. We collect the data and what is the insight we are getting out of it. Similarly, for wildlife conservation, and at the same time, we have like military everywhere, so we can track their locations. We can track them if they are how they are doing, where they are, and sometimes we just cannot locate the military people. So this can help. The solutions can help the government to identify all this. So this is a project with town of Cary in North Carolina in US. So there the main problem was they have every year flooding. So currently they do not know, not currently, now they have a solution, but prior to that it was impossible for them to know what is the current river level when it's raining, and how fast it can increase, how fast the water can rise. And many places that were flood prone were not well served, and it was hard to bring the help to those areas very quickly. And at the same time, they were relying mostly on the people to alert the government agencies that, oh, we have a flood here, or we have some unnatural water flowing in, or we see some problem around our place. So they were mostly relying on the people to notify about any problem around the flooding. And at the same time, even after knowing that, okay, there is a problem, it was hard to provide the help right away. And it was delayed help, and delayed in like putting the barriers or closing the roads to these areas, so to ensure the safety and of other people. And what we have seen is that it's a huge loss, both monetary and non-monetary loss. We have seen that, and it has taken many lives, and a lot of damages have incurred, of like a lot of tangible damages have been seen. So how we can prevent this? So we provide a solution that prevents the flooding, or not preventing, it predicts the flooding and how we can take an action. So the demand was, the objective was to have a scalable and reusable, also a cost-efficient solution that can provide the real-time alerts and notifications of the places where the water level is rising. So the officials, they can, or the person involved in the safety of the people, can take the right measures and can reduce the damages that could be caused by the flooding. So how this was achieved, we have like several sensors that are deployed at different places in the town, and where the water streams become big, and that causes the flood eventually. So the different sensors, like water level sensors, rain gauges, were deployed. They are all solar powered and battery operated, and they are able to communicate directly with the Azure IoT Hub. So every sensor was streaming the data through a secure connection to the cloud gateways. And then once we have the data within the cloud, we were going through the whole cycle of data analytics, and then we were processing this data real time. We were using the streaming analytics. We have the models that were working for real time ETL and for analytics. And also we developed offline analytical models that were based on the historic data. And also with the new data that is coming, it was continuously being trained and scored. And the results can be stored either in some storages, or we were in fact sending it directly to the officials that were involved, and then they can take an action. So the data was shared, the results, the insights were shared with the government agencies, with the people, and they were sent the alerts on their mobile phones, emails, and also the public people working in the public sector. This information is also shared with the region, and also the state, and all the other partners that were involved in. So what we see is, in this map, you will see that there are different stars marked, and there are different other symbols here. So these are the places where they were like different installations of sensors, and which was collecting what is the flow of the water, and what is the recording at that time, at different times in the during the day. And what we saw is that by putting the sensors in the creeks and in the different places in the stream, we were able to know how the water is rising, how fast it is rising. And also the real-time weather reporting was, we were collecting the real-time weather reports, and this was helping us predict, based on the information that we are collecting, where we can expect the next heavy rainfall and what preventive measures we can take there. So everything was using the streaming analytics. We were constantly preparing, collecting the data and analyzing it. And we had the dashboard. We have this dashboard that will mark where exactly we see what is the affected area, and where do we need to have a preventive mechanism deployed, and to ensure the security of the people. Everything was built with Azure because the sensors that were being used could communicate directly with the Azure IoT hub. And since it's a cloud-based solution, it was scalable and reliable. So we see like different business outcomes here out of this. So we were able to make faster, we were able to take fast actions. We could predict where the flood would happen and take or send timely alerts to the people. And it was, we get the real-time visibility, and the solution is highly scalable. So it can take not only the town of Kerry, but the neighboring places, and also it's a reusable solution, so it can be deployed anywhere where we have flood-prone zones. So the next use case is from the healthcare. So here again, we have like different use cases of patient tracking. Contact tracing is the most recent. It is with the COVID. We need to understand who was the person with the highest exposure, and how we can manage the staff, what is the asset management at the hospitals, and also for predictive maintenance of the different assets in the hospital. So here we see in the COVID, if a person is entering into the hospital, so we have these gateways, and each person will get a device, a wearable badge that will always communicate with the gateway and provide its location, and also what is its proximity with the other people who are in the same room, or if the person is moving from one room to another room, what is its proximity with the other people. So we were able to do a real-time contact tracing and also know their locations, and at the same time know what are the people, who are the people who are the high risk or the high exposure. So we can isolate them, and we can do their COVID tests as well. So this was the architecture that is deployed, and we have these beacon devices, which you can say the tags or the batches. They work on the low Bluetooth technology, and they are sending their location information to the gateways, which are streaming the data in the cloud platform where we are running the streaming analytics. So the business outcome was, as I mentioned, that we were able to find the real time. In the real time, we were able to identify the person who is at the highest exposure. And we created these comprehensive reports and summaries that provides what was the trajectory followed by this person, what was the duration with the people he was or she was talking to, and what were the different contacts, and even to trace those contacts as well, because those contacts were also going forward and meeting other people. So it would give the information with the dates and time, and this solution is scalable, and it is right now deployed in hospitals, and so it is it includes all the staff members and all the patients that are visiting the hospital premises. So the next one is from the manufacturing. So here it is from the predictive maintenance. We have like different use cases here again, like how to detect the anomalies in the machine behavior, if it is not working fine, if the temperature is in control or not. So that is like for the production quality, if it is accurately created, if there are some problems or defects in the product that is there. So all the different use cases from manufacturing are here. And this particular one was for the predictive maintenance. So what we were doing, we were getting all the data from the different sensors that were installed in the manufacturing unit, and all the data was being streamed to the local facility, to the local manufacturing unit, because this company has multiple manufacturing units across the country. So each facility was having its own setup where every data was going through, and the streaming analytics was happening right there at the facility. And some of the data was also going to the cloud for the supervisors who are managing all these manufacturing units to understand what's going on and what should be the steps that can be taken. So what we were seeing is, as the business outcome, is that we were able to reduce the downtime, because we knew when the machine can go down or the equipment can go down. And because of this, we also saw increased yield, and we had this closed loop feedback that was telling the manufacturing processes, and we were deploying the new models, understanding where we need to optimize the model. And it was all the models were created in the cloud, and it was like one single since all the manufacturing units were running the same model, it was just one click button and everybody would have the updated model. So the last one is from the telecom, and here in telecom again we have the asset management, because there are different assets involved in different telecom industries. So for example, we have the cooling fans and cooling where we have the network towers, we have the cooling equipments, so how they are working, if the temperature is being maintained or not. So we are monitoring the assets there, and at the same time how the customers are being benefited from this, and if we can optimize the network, how we can optimize the network. So there were use cases, these are the use cases that we see most commonly in telecom industry. So how we implemented the solution is that this was primarily for the customized offers. So the devices, that's the handheld devices, all the mobile phones which are subscribed to this particular telecom subscriber, we were getting the data on their recharges and the mobile plans and the data plans they are having, and what is the frequency of their calls, if they are doing local calls or international calls, or what is the frequency of their SMS. So based on their consumption, each customer was uniquely given a customized offer for the next recharges or next mobile plans. And with that, we saw that an increase in the way the consumer is using and their satisfaction levels. So we had an increase in that. And also at the same time, how we can identify, and we were able to identify and monitor the consumption pattern, because we knew from where this person is actually calling, which network the person is connected to. And at the same time, we were able to monitor the network usage, if we need to improvise the network, if the speed is good, if the connection is good, what is the quality of the connection. So everything was we were able to analyze and monitor and also visualize. So with that, it was very the business outcome were very good, and with that, the business users were able to provide new business models and business offers to the customized offers to their consumers. So these were the four use cases that I presented, but there are many other use cases that I have been working on and across different industries, and the list is like huge. And it's not only limited to streaming analytics, it is also about analytics as in for how we can perform, like what are the different tools and techniques and architectures, designs that we can use, how different services can be used, because one solution cannot solve all the problems. So we have to have this ecosystem that works together to tackle a business problem and to provide a solution. So across the industries, across the use cases, streaming analytics is becoming very useful, and given the different algorithms from machine learning and from AI that can be leveraged, and also the platform that can be leveraged. So it is a big domain, and with the IoT data that we are having currently, there's no stopping. So that's the end of my presentation.